Hello everyone, and welcome again to the Empire Partner Foundation Studio Podcast. Today on the CEO Talk, we have Mr. Jovi Chen. Now, Mr. Jovi Chen, I found him on LinkedIn. From the people within the ecosystem at EPF, two people said no, they know Mr. Jovi. In fact, one of them, Locadia, I'm not sure if you remember her. Locadia, she said she'll come through and greet you properly.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but Mr. Jovi Chen is a co-founder of Your Story Global. He's an executive director at Zen Consortium. He's a tech and social entrepreneur, as well as an investor. Now, I don't know what I left out. So if you can enlighten our viewers as well, just tell us more about yourself.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here. I think, it's an honor to be invited to this podcast. So you mentioned about, my background. So the one thing, just for the viewer to know, I actually came from Taiwan. I came to South Africa in 1992. And then what happened was my parents, they actually came in with the view to create a job in South Africa. So when they came in, we set up the factory, manufacture shoes in the township outside Free State. It's called Puchapelo. I don't know if you know about it.
Yeah,
Puchapelo, yes.
Yeah.
So that's where we start our very first shoe manufacturing plant there. I think that time we must have hired about plus minus about 130 local people community in the area.
That's good.
But the funny thing is that when I came to South Africa at that time, I came to South Africa for the holiday because I just finished my matric. So my parents said, come here and see for yourself, because what you see is not necessarily, what has been perceived on TV.
Yes.
Then I came here, I landed in Joburg, and then we took a drive from Joburg to Bloom.
And there was no lion on the street.
There was nothing. But it's a beautiful country, I must say. Beautiful country. The landscape. Obviously, for me, it's very new because I came from Asia. Asian, everything is very claustrophobic.
Yes.
But here, you got such a pleasure or such a luxury of having an open space.
Okay.
So I fell in love, with South Africa.
Yeah.
Initially, I was going to come here for maybe a month or two, then go back to Taiwan to continue my varsity study.
Yeah.
And then I decided, no, you know what? I think, I would like to apply to the local university to see if I can continue my education here.
Okay.
Then I came here, and then obviously, because when we were in Taiwan, we learned American English.
Yes.
Not English.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to adjust it. So for example, you call tomato sauce, they call ketchup.
Ketchup, yeah. Exactly.
You call takeaway, they call to go. Something like those.
Yeah.
And then so I spent 1 year at the language school in Brun, and then I came to Joburg, managed to get into VETS.
Okay.
So
you're like a nerd, geek.
Nah.
VETS. Yeah.
But not really, because my major was information system and business finance.
Oh yeah.
So I did double major then.
So you are a geek.
I'm a geek and I'm the investor. So
geek with some money.
Geek love making money. Let's put that way.
Yeah.
And then I graduated from varsity. Then I went to the consulting firm. So I spent about 5 years with the consulting firm called Ernst & Young. Yeah. EY, in short. So I was 3 years in Joburg and 2 years in San Francisco. And that's where I started to actually, start to broaden my spectrum into all the startup from the Silicon Valley. Because when I was in San Francisco, even though I reported to the EY San Francisco, but my clientele base was actually in San Jose. So San Jose is where the Google, Facebook, and all those guys are.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley.
The Silicon Valley, correct. Then I came to South Africa, and that's where my banking career started. So I was at Absa, FNB, Barclay, Standard, and then I left. I think 2016. Yeah. That's where I started the whole Zen Consortium space.
Okay.
So that's me.
Yes. And actually, I was going to touch on Zen Consortium. Let's start with the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, let's start with the podcast. What inspired you to start a podcast? What's this thing, Your Story Global?
Okay, so initially, the Your Story Global wasn't called Your Story Global, wasn't called Your Story South Africa.
Okay.
Whatever was one of my alumni from my MBA.
Yes.
So his name is Ryan Watt. So we get to know each other through the alumni WhatsApp group.
Yes.
Because I have another sub WhatsApp group called Wells in Birth, so it's for people to talk about business ideas,
okay,
you know, and how to help them create the wealth, you know, the financial freedom.
Yes.
And he was also part of the group, which I didn't know about. So he reached out to me one day and said, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to start a podcast.
Okay.
Would you like to be part of this?" I said, "Yeah, sure, start it." But the thing is that in our space, we've seen a lot of people who talk the talk but can't walk the talk.
True.
So I gave him the task that, you know, you want me to, you know, get involved with your podcast, which is fine, because we were going to start our podcast called Zen.
Yeah.
It's part of the Zen consortium anyway. But I thought, you know, wait a second, if there's a young guy who has ambition to do that, and instead of become the enemy, maybe we can collaborate so we can become friendly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I gave him the task, I gave him the target, you got to reach certain subscriber.
Okay.
You got to at least, you know, pump out about 10 episodes.
Yes.
Before I take you serious.
Okay.
So I gave him 3 months. 3 months later, he phoned me and said, "Hey, I have achieved this. Can we talk?" I said, "No problem." And that's where we started. So we kind of branched it out from the Your Story South Africa. Now we actually play at the global space. Okay. So we have episode came from Japan. We have episode from Egypt, Canada, US, Australia, and recently we had about few from Bangladesh. So we play at the global scale.
Okay.
Why did we start Your Story Global?
Yes.
Why did we start a podcast? Because I believe everybody have, you know, some story which they can share with people. Yeah. Might not necessarily relate to their career history. Yes. Might not necessarily relate to how successful they have become. But it could be something which, what sort of challenge have they faced? Or what sort of journey have they gone through? Yeah. Those stories, by sharing their story, you know, they will be able to actually, you know, share their journey with the listener who might not go through the same path. You know what I mean? So then, you know, I mean, you know, there's always a 2 brain is better than 1. Yeah. Right? So I mean, if you listen to the story, you know, of people who are busy going through the recycling business, as an example. Yeah. You happen to want to start a recycling business. They already gone through their learning curve. They have already failed, or they have learned from some mistake they have made. So it actually kind of help you prevent you from making the same mistake as well. True. So that is the one angle to look into. The second angle is, you know, with the COVID in place and the whole world is very negative. Yeah. How do we institute the positivity into people's minds? It's very important. And that's why we actually try to do. And we also, you know, the reason why we branch out, because I believe, you know, in the digital space, especially in the podcast space, there is no border. You know, we can have a conversation, technology is available, we can even, you know, share, I mean, listen to some amazing story coming from the like of Nepal, which was probably never been featured before. True. As example. True. Right? True. And the other thing is like, because I mean, you have seen, I mean, when we started, we focused on the SME, you know, small, medium enterprise, right? They don't necessarily have a digital voice. Yeah. So how do I mean, if I tell you now, right, one of the entrepreneur we feature came all the way from East London, but he supplied charcoal to Pick and Pay. Would you know about it? You wouldn't before the podcast. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But now you know. So now other retailer knows about this gentleman, you know, who is actually converting the farm waste from the agricultural process, you know, the farm waste from the sugarcane whatsoever. So they convert those into the charcoal
and provide to Pick and Pay.
Provide to Pick and Pay.
Creating jobs. Yeah.
Creating job in the community. Reduce the carbon footprint.
The carbon footprint, yes.
The green thing. I mean, just by feature the story, we already touch about 4 things on the social angle. Green, youth development, employee, creation, and also the whole green tech space. Yes. And at the same time, because we help him to voice his business out. Now, I mean, people outside of East London will be able to know, so wait a second, there's somebody in East London who is actually manufacturing charcoal. So it's nothing stopping the like of the, I don't know, Checkers, or the big guys like Food Lovers Market to actually buy from him. as an example.
Yeah.
So that is another reason why we're doing it. Because a lot of people, they have a website, some of them they don't even have a website.
Yeah.
A website is a website only if you know, right? If you know the website, or if you happen to know the company name, you will be able to Google it. But now we swing the thing to be other way around.
Okay.
So we actually position you on behalf of you, together with you, basically, and to actually take your name, take your business into the social media, into the like of YouTube, into the like of Spotify, all those sort of things.
Yeah.
And when the people might not necessarily, the viewer might not necessarily only be coming from South Africa.
Yeah.
They might be coming from global scale.
Yes. And that's where the global can fit. Okay.
So that's why we started. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Is it then related to your investment portfolio, or is it something then you try and invest in those people? Do you use your own resources to advertise this thing, to take it to a global scale?
Self-funded at the moment.
Yeah.
Everything is self-funded at the moment. So from the investment point of view, we obviously see which SME coming through the podcast then could have a potential for us to get involved, because some of them, they might not necessarily need the financial support. They need the non-financial. I'll give you a quick example, right? Remember the charcoal one I was telling you, right? So I can pick two, the charcoal one, and also the other one was the lady who started Germany in the township as well. So the charcoal one, when the Japanese delegate came to South Africa, we already showed the video, showed the episode to the Japanese delegate who might be interested in invest into those companies, right? So there was our initial thinking: how do we take the digital voice to the people outside of South Africa and those about? So when the Japanese delegate, they actually came to South Africa about a month ago. One of them already said, he would like to take this business forward. So he would like to see what is the business case looks like, what is the J curve, all those necessity. That's what I call the pitching deck. So they are already in the process of reviewing to see. Basically, they are in the process of due diligence. So imagine that, because he is not getting the funding from South Africa, but he is also, he is in the pipeline of potential investors coming from Japan. Without the podcast, he will never have that.
No. Without the internet.
Without the internet. Without the episodes. So everything is self-funded at the moment, and we actually handpick to see which one we can help them leverage our network, because I came from corporate and most of our people came from corporate. So we got a very strong network in the corporate space.
Okay.
So the other farmer, we help him to actually supply his stuff into one of the major retailers already. It's through the same thing as well, because he was the only farmer who did the YouTube video pitch. Rest of that, they just do the PowerPoint presentation. So he was one who actually showcased, this is the township. This is the people who we are actually employed, and those are the jobs we have created, and so they can see it. You know what I mean? Okay. So we're at ETF, we're tech hub, right? And I must steer the conversation to the tech. So Zen Consulting. I saw something like Zenovation. I think something Zen Hub or something. Zenovation, Zencubation.
Yes. Yeah. So if then you can walk us through that. What is Zen Consortium?
Okay.
What are you doing in the tech space? And what are you trying to solve as Zen Consortium?
So let me take it. When we started, we identified there is a gap in the market. Right? You got a lot of NGOs, you got a lot of development bank, you got a lot of development agencies, right? But there is not really a focus consulting house who focus on the NGO sector. So when we started, I actually had a chat with one of the big consulting firms that we partnered together. But the view was they don't think this is a profitable opportunity. Then I understand, because from the consulting point of view, they do have profitability to target they need to meet. Happy. But for me, it's like, what? If you take the profitability away, right? There's nothing stopping them from starting something like this. but they don't want to. They say, give it a try. I said, no problem. We try it. Right? So when we start with the division called Zennovation.
Okay.
So Zennovation is basically almost like a management consulting firm for the like of NGO and for the like of development bank. Okay. So what do? We provide the turnkey turnaround strategy for the NGO. Okay. Actually, let's don't call it NGO. Let's call it funder and fundee. Okay. I think that will be easier. Yeah. Because funder, you covers all those development agencies. Yeah. And the fundee, you talk about the people who benefit from it. Okay. Right. So we provide for example, the marketing transformation, digital transformation, organizational transformation. So basically, the knowledge and skill and experience we had from our previous job, which is kind of ported into the management consulting space. Okay, and that's Zennovation. Zennovation. Okay. That's where we started. Okay. And here's a kicker. Yeah. Right? When we started, remember I told you, we spoke to some of the big consulting firms. They want to be part of it. Yeah. Right? Our very first client, we were competing with them. Wow. But we ended up won the proposal. Yeah. Yeah. And the initial contract was only for 3 months, and they extended to 2.5 years. And I think they just opened the door for endless possibility. Because what we have done, and when we were there, we actually helped one of the microfinancing institutions to achieve the best performing year since the inception of the microfinance 20 some odd years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it was very good actually. So we not only just helping them from the performance point of view, but we also help them from the culture transformations as well. So what we did, I took some of the learning from corporate and put into the NGO space. Okay. And then they get exposure in terms of why and how to be disciplined. Yeah. That's what they do. Because most of the time the NGO become laid back. I'm sure you must have seen something. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's where we started. Yeah. And then we soon realized some of our clients who are actually in the SME space, they also have a sourcing requirement. They might want to start a business in a borehole business as example, but they don't know where to source the equipment. Yeah. Or they source the equipment, but they have been taken for a ride. Yeah. Right? And that's where we started the whole Zen sourcing. Okay. So Zen sourcing, we basically actually acquired one of the leading import-export agency called Yakama. We acquired it and we rebranded to Zen sourcing. Okay. And then that's where we focus on the intercontinental trade. Okay. But 2 years ago, we also incorporate the Zen sourcing, how I split into two. Yeah. One is a hard sourcing, which means things you can feel and touch. Okay. The other one is more from the human capital point of view. Yeah. So we start doing recruitment for some of the major corporate in South Africa and overseas as well. And how we did it, we do it quite differently because most of recruitment agencies, they go for the CV hunt. We don't go there. We actually liaise with people who we know. Okay. So we already pivoted because if I know you, I know you can do the job. As example, I will probably recommend you for them. Okay. I wouldn't go find your CV from the internet because then you just one of those recruitment agencies and you're not adding value. And we also provided almost like free mentorship coaching for the candidate which we place. Yeah. So even up to today, all those candidates which we place for our client, we still keep in a very strong, almost like professional type of relationship. Yeah. And I'm still mentoring some of them actually as we speak. Which a recruitment agency does, they don't do it. Once they place you, sayonara, invoice it out. So that is Zen sourcing, right? Yeah. And then the way does Zencubation. Zencubation is our incubation acceleration / VC angel invest kind of hybrid model. Okay. So we've been doing a lot of incubation acceleration, together with some of the government agency. And we try to actually, it's very similar as what you guys do, basically. So they give you people, then we try to help them. We help them accelerate their business, which help them to turn around their business. Okay. Okay. What set us apart is because we're not just, we're not necessarily a book smart type of thing. Everybody can give you the marketing lecture. Everybody can give you the maybe the pricing strategy, etc. But it all comes down to two things, right? Can you help the company get access to market? Yes. Number one. Can you help the entrepreneur get necessary funding? Number two. Those are only two major hurdle. Most of SME facing. I'm sure in your space as
yeah.
Especially now you guys got the hackathon happening. Right?
Yeah.
And what we have done quite differently is that because most of us, we have very strong corporate background. So we kind of, when we engage with the business owner, we try to teach them a different way of running the business. Not just the book where everybody can Google and read from the internet.
Yeah.
Say, business 101, how do you start a business? It's not going to help you.
Yeah.
But what if I tell you, say, I can help you grow your business by 10%? By doing 1, 2, 3 different
steps
you can pull.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I mean, I'll give you a quick practical example, right? There was one farmer, right? He's only focused on growing the egg, right? So at the moment, he supplies egg in the community. Great, you supply egg in the community. Are you sustainable? Some months yes, some months no. I said, okay, great. I mean, within your 5-kilometer diameter, have you ever tried to map out the retailers in a 5-kilometer diameter? Map 10-kilometer diameter. So he said he never done that exercise before. He always, people come to his shop.
Yeah.
I said, but that's where the problem is, because if you rely on people come to you, you're not going to manage it to grow. You want to remain flat.
Yeah.
But if you want to have the kicker in your business, you need to be out there to actually engage with those potential retailers who have gone through, the amount of eggs for the local, surrounding area.
Yeah.
So he did the exercise, but is it difficult? Not really. Can you read it from the book? I don't think so. But I think that those are something which we know. I mean, this will help them grow their business.
Yeah.
And he now is doing very well. I think he just increased his production by, last time when I checked was in June. When we engaged was beginning of the year. I think he has managed to grow his production by close to 400%.
Yeah.
And he
just by taking it out there.
By taking it out there, and he also, we help him to get the, funding from NYDA as well.
Yeah.
Just to actually, build up they call it hatcheries.
Yeah. And so how do you incorporate technology in all of this?
So tech is obviously by design is in there, because if you think about what we do, right? Because technology is not necessarily just what you see on the computer. I mean, agri-tech space as example.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we had this interview today, because yesterday, one of the leading drone manufacturer from Taiwan actually came to visit South Africa.
Oh.
Yesterday.
Okay.
So I linked it up to one of the 3 black-owned drone technology company in South Africa. So they had a talk already, right?
Yeah.
Where does the Zen involve in it? 1, we create a linkage between the 2. 2, we try to identify what is a user case for them. And 3, how do we also help them to launch this to the market? That's one of them, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is that we also involved in the green tech project.
Yes.
Right? So the green tech, if you look at what is happening in South Africa with load shedding, all the sort of things. So how do we create something which is affordable for the end user to use? Right. So that's the second. The third one is we also, I don't know if you know about Task Crew.
Task Crew.
Yeah, TASKCRU.
Okay.
So Task Crew is our very first super app.
Okay.
So it's a marketplace. It's like Airbnb for professionals.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm here in Ilobo. I'm looking for somebody to look after my dog for the next 3 days. Get onto the app.
Task Crew. Okay.
Yeah, but we exited quite nicely. Yeah. So I think we grow quite nicely in there. And then when we got the potential investors who actually came over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ways, because people tend to think technology is something you code, not necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of the Japanese people, something funny I saw. I think I don't know if it's fake news or not, but say 2 months ago, where the government was urging the youth to drink more, to take more alcohol in Japan.
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay, I suppose I saw on Bloomberg also, but That's not being the point, right? The point being the youth in Japan. I'll focus on Japan because you talked about Japan, and I don't want to generalize and say in Asia or let's say Taiwan, but I think you know about the youth in Japan and just the political system and the social standard there. And they are not in destitute, right? They can stand up for themselves. They know how to use what is available to their advantage, move forward. They understand the tech, right? They are exploring, and partly, of course, the government is assisting. I saw some policy somewhere that it's like a targeted education policy, whereby in the high schools as well as in the varsity, they provide an education that equips someone to be ready for a certain need in society. So if we have a backlog in sewage, they will equip X amount of people who are needed for the sewage, you know, and then we have those people, they are skilled, they are maintained this way. So coming back to South Africa, you are South African, 1992, before I was born, so you are South African. Our youth need some encouragement, you know. I don't know, what, as a parting shot, what can you say using that experience there from Japan, somewhere from Taiwan? I know in China, the youth also there, you know, they're not so left in destitute type of situation. So what can you say?
I think, you know what, I think if you look at, I'll take the storage situation as an example, right? There's only two ways to solve it, right? The one is have the skill, very skilled workforce, right? The second thing is the job itself must be enticing for the youth to want to get involved, right? If you look at the place like Japan or developed country, right? If you look at those workers, they don't get paid badly, they get paid very well actually. South Africa, I don't think they get paid very well. So in that regard, I mean, if you think about the most of people in South, most of youth, where do they get their inspiration from? Based on what they see, based on what they have experienced, on people who they deem as successful, drive a fancy car, you know, on the newspaper, all those YouTube influencers whatsoever. But I mean, none of them has, I mean, actually there is a general problem actually. I think, I don't think there's any of those positive influencing agenda happening in that regard to actually drive, you know, some of the undesired job, right? But how do you make those undesired jobs attractive? I mean, obviously you probably have to, you know, give them a lot of benefit and pay them well, and also to uplift their social respect status, right? But not just only on those low-end jobs, even on the average. I mean, if you look at South Africa, I think the biggest problem is education, right? I mean, you have a lot of dropout. I mean, at varsity, I'm sure you saw on the news, right? Even at the people who after matric, right? There's a lot of people out there, but I mean, have we create enough job for them? Big question mark, right? Because if they don't get a job, what do we need to do? We actually need to start to drive the entrepreneurship for them to create a job. But do they have a proper support in there? Government are doing it. I get it, government are doing it, right? There's a lot of money available to actually help them. But I promise you, on the engagement I had with those youth, they don't actually know where to start. They don't even know NYDA exists. You know what I mean? But those are the agencies, so that's what I'm saying, it's all back to two things. You know, it's skill force and also, you know, from the environment, is it conducive? I mean, are we doing enough to actually educate the youth, say, wait a second, besides going to the mainstream work, there is also another thing called entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship doesn't mean you have to build up a company like Apple, as an example. That is a great inspiration.
Because that's also the picture we have.
I know.
Hey, I want to build, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to make Apple.
No, which is fine. That is an inspiration, or you aspire to become it, right? But the thing is, like, take a step back. what is in your control? What is the low-hanging fruit you can take to start building something from scratch? Unless you want a lotto, that's different conversation. Yeah, but the thing is like, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, the environment must be conducive. I mean, you guys have done a great thing on the hackathon point of view, because I must be honest with you, before I knew about you guys, I didn't even know this exists. But the thing is, how do we actually have more of this? So people in the township knows about this.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I was chatting to one of the tech startup funders. Funder, he is a funder, right? So he started the whole, try to simplify the email management.
Okay.
I asked them, do you know about the hackathon happening in this place? They said, no, they never heard about it. So how do we actually, take a great thing you guys have done, and start to actually, broadcast the good news out there, so you give people hope, so people can start to see, wait a second, maybe I should come chat to you guys to find out what's right now.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I like when you touch on the environment. Yeah. So I think people they will take a lot from this. Thank you for your pearls of wisdom.
No problem.
Thank you for your knowledge.
You're welcome.
And hopefully we'll have more conversations.
Without doubt,
Sure.
Does it help?